is coming. Well, yeah, rave sword, it probably is. They photographed it, the winged globe sitting out there. But it's out there within our range, and we'll be seeing it all happen up here. Yeah, you guys are going to be freezing up there in Canada, and I got a feeling the pole shift ain't going to amount to much. I don't think the Earth's going to stop on its axis or anything, but you know, it will affect our weather. Already has in Europe, and it will be doing that here too. All right. Okay. All right, we got everything working now. All right. That's how we're working. From the Washington Post. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and there's no such thing as a free war. The Iraq adventure has seriously weakened the U.S. economy, whose woes now go far beyond loose mortgage lending. You can't spend $3 trillion. Yes, $3 trillion on a failed war abroad and not feel the pain at home. I don't know that we've had a failed war. We got a war that was illegal and shouldn't have ever happened. Now, some people will scoff at that number, but the Washington Post says they've done the math. They've done the math. Senior Bush official administration aides certainly poo-pooed worrisome estimates in the run-up to the war. Former White House economic advisor Lawrence Lindsay reckoned that the conflict would cost $100 billion to $200 billion. Defense Secretary Donald H. Rumsfeld later called his estimate baloney. Administration officials insisted that the cost would be more like $50 billion to $60 billion. And remember, try to keep this in mind here, not from the Washington Post, but from the Free American, that Rabbi Dov Zakheim, the chief financial officer of the Pentagon, lost $2.6 trillion at the Pentagon. So this before 9/11. Before, a few days before 9/11, and then 9/11 helped cover that up and bury that in the headlines, didn't it? Now, in April of 2003, Andrew S. Natasius, the thoughtful head of the U.S. Agency for International Development, said on Nightline that reconstructing Iraq would cost the American people's taxpayer just $1.7 billion. Ted Koppel, in disbelief, pressed Natasio on the question, but Natasio stuck to his guns. Out of the administration, such as Defense Secretary Paul D. Wolfowitz, who they put in over Iraq to run Iraq for us, hoped that the U.S. partners would chip in as they had in the 1991 Persian Gulf War, or that Iraq's oil would pay for the damages. Hard for it to pay for the damages when they're piping it all to Israel, ladies and gentlemen. And during the Gulf War, we saw them building that pipeline, restoring that pipeline from Iraq to Israel. The end result of all this wishful thinking, as we approach the 5th anniversary, it says here, of the invasion, Iraq is not only the second longest war in U.S. history after Vietnam, it is also the second most costly, surpassed only by World War II. Now, why doesn't the public understand the staggering scale of our expenditures? In part because the administration talks only about the upfront costs, which are mostly handled by emergency appropriations. Iraq funding is apparently still on emergency 5 years after the war began. These costs, by our calculations, are now running at $12 billion a month. $16 billion if you include Afghanistan. By the time you add in the cost hidden in the defense budget, the money we have to spend to help future veterans, which they're already trying to turn into terrorists, said, and money to refurbish a military whose equipment and material have been greatly depleted. The total tab to the federal government will almost surely exceed $1.5 trillion. But the cost to our society and economy are far greater. Now remember, This is coming from the Washington Post. Mainstream media actually telling you the truth about something. When a soldier is killed in Iraq or Afghanistan, his or her family will receive a U.S. government check for just $500,000, combining life insurance with a death gratuity, far less than the typical amount paid by insurance company for the death of a young person in a car accident. The stark budgetary cost of $500,000 is clearly only a fraction of the total cost society pays for the loss of a life. No one can ever really compensate for the families. Moreover, disability pay seldom provides adequate compensation for wounded troops or their families. Indeed, in 1 out of 5 cases of seriously injured soldiers, someone in their family has to give up a job to take care of them. But beyond this is the cost of the already sputtering U.S. economy. All told, the bill for the Iraq War is likely to top $3 trillion, and that's a conservative estimate. Now, stay with me and let's do this. I'm looking here at the World Trade Center, and the second plane flew into it and turned our world into black and white. Good guys versus bad guys. The thinking stopped, and we see the motto of the Mossad: by way of deception thou shalt do war. Now think about this $3 trillion that's being paid on wars, and your sons are being sacrificed. But hey, we'll give you $500,000. I would be willing to bet that the government makes more off of the soldiers that are killed there than $500,000 they send to the family. Be willing to bet on that. Now, people, there's a warning. If people presenting this film do not necessarily agree or disagree with this entire presentation. What we're talking about is war by deception. Now, this whole video, folks, you can see the whole video about 9/11 up on my website. War by deception, the shadow government. We're talking about the anthrax war. What really happened? What really happened in 9/11?
This isn't just a film about 9/11 and the wars that followed. This isn't just a film about the press and the Pentagon. It's about our world and how information is conveyed and how prejudice is fostered by deception. About how we are subjected to indoctrination and used and pitted against each other.
And what have I been telling you? You know, I said right now that George Bush on this website, George Bush 9/11 all ignored 6 million murdered in these covert drug and weapons-backed operations in third world countries like Iran, Contra, and Operation Watchtower. That's in my book, Mystery Babylon. Now I've got a book. Nobody wants to buy that book. Nobody wants to read that book. They don't want to handle it. They're afraid to handle it because we talk about the Zionists, we talk about Christian identity, we talk about Homeland Security, we talk about all the stuff that this film is talking about. Now you can order the book. You can have it in 1 hour by book for $20. And it'll help keep the Free American on the air, man. I spent a lot of time on this website. Now, you can find some faults with the website. You can find some faults with what I do. But I've been working for 25 years to bring this information. Over 25 years ago, I got the information on Operation Watchtower. And they don't mention it in this film. But it ran side by side with, and I talked and interviewed and had them on my show, people that are doing life in Walpole Prison that were involved in this operation. Their wife's murdered, William Tyree's wife murdered, and him put in sentenced to life in Walpole Prison for a murder he didn't commit. This whole story's in Mystery Babylon, the New World Order Unveiled, and this is part of it. This is on the website. Now, folks, I'm not, I've got KB Gold on here, and I've got some books for sale. I don't make anything off KB Gold unless down the line you decide to invest some money in it. That's all. I'm not. It's not a paid advertisement. I'm doing it as a service, so you can get your money out of the country and put it into a safe place in gold. Now let's go on with this.
Understand the massive military expenditures and how they are eating up so much wealth.
That's right. let me just back that up just a second. Just gave you the information on the massive military spending.
This isn't just a film about 9/11 and the wars that followed. This isn't just a film about the press and the Pentagon. It's about our world and how information is conveyed and how prejudice is fostered by deception.
Divide and conquer.
To indoctrination.
Divide and conquer. It's a prime thing. Bloods, Crips,
to understand the massive
Republicans,
military
Democrats,
expenditures and how they are eating up.
We've got over $600 billion in military spending. China under $100 billion. Russia under that. Goes all the way down to Spain, I guess, on this chart. 500 billion. We are spending more money on the military than all of the other countries in the world combined. We are the New World Order. The United States is a New World Order. George Bush, Ollie North, and all the people that are talking about in this film are part of it. And Operation Watchtower was the drug smuggling. Now we've got troops, our troops. We're paying our troops to go over there and be murdered, guarding the opium poppy fields those nasty old Taliban were trying to destroy. We're doing the same thing that we did the England did to China. Now let's go on warfare by deception. The Mossad and 9/11 was an Israeli operation. There were over 100 people involved in that. They went back to Canada, and Michael Chertoff saw that they got back wherever they came from, which would be Israel. Come on.
So much wealth. The first hurdle we have to get over is his trust in the mass media.
Now, after I saw what happened at Waco, I swore to my wife I would never sit back and watch that happen again without trying to do something. Now, once you understand what's going on, and this is one of the biggest problems with you people out there, you are listening to me on the radio, and you don't really want to believe me. You don't. Well, you want to think I'm crazy. You want to think I'm a conspiracy theorist. Because if you realize, and I'm telling you the truth, if you realize there should be no war on drugs here. The war on drugs is a war on the American people and people all over the world. They're to provide our prison system, which is a for-profit prison system, with slave labor, and that's exactly what the Jews were put in the concentration camps for in Germany, was for labor for the factories. It's exactly what it was.
And the stigma against the concept of conspiracy.
That's right. Conspiracy. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And that's all in Mystery Babylon. My book, Mystery Babylon, will tell you about that. I've got the whole Homeland Security report in here. I got the history of the Rothschilds in here. This is one of the best books out there, folks. But Tex Mars won't tell you about it because I talked about Paul. Tex Mars won't even talk to me because I talked about Paul. You're a Paul basher, said the Christian Identity pricks over there on TalkShoe. Come on. This is part of the divide and conquer. Oh, those nasty Muslims blew up 9/11. No, they didn't. Israel blew them up. But your Constitution protects you whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian. No problem. Learn to live together without war by deception. And, us deniers versus kooks ignore the coverts, the extremes, covert operations are normal.
There are a lot of strange conspiracies about many things, but that is not a reason to reject conspiracies categorically. For example, the Iran-Contra affair was a massive government conspiracy hidden from the press and public for years. It happened in my lifetime, and it involved billions of dollars in multiple countries. This was a case where one part of the government didn't even know what another part of the government was doing. Thousands of people were murdered. Multiple countries in Central America, as well as Iran and Israel, were involved. And yet it was kept as a total secret from the media, or perhaps by the media, for years. Not only was it possible to hide this from the public, but most of the government was unaware of the activities of a small cabal from within. Covert actions and deception in the press aren't irregular, it's normal.
And folks, that is why I started the Free American in the first place. This is why I started doing this show. War by deception, Iran, Contra.
The continuity of government, with a compartment within the CIA, was acting on its own with other intelligence agencies for selective business interest. And it had made plans to subvert the Constitution for the Homeland Security State in the event of a disaster.
Colonel North, in your work at the NSC, were you assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster? Mr. Chairman.
I believe that question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir.
I would.
The CIA, along with Zionist hawk Michael Ledeen and Iran-Contra middleman Ghorbanifar, financed their operations with illegal arms and drug sales. Opium from Laos during the Vietnam Wars and the Golden Triangle, cocaine from Central and South America, and presently opium in the Golden Crescent from Afghanistan. The black market weapons trade and the sale of illegal drugs such as cocaine and opium are routine methods to finance black ops, off-the-book operations hidden from oversight. In fact, some of the same people, Ledeen and Ghorbanifar, had themselves neck deep in the Niger forgeries, which acted as a central lie in the pre-war propaganda of weapons of mass destruction used as a pretext to wage preemptive war on Iraq. It is crucial for people to understand this because one of the reasons they reject conspiracy theories about 9/11 or about Iraq is because they just can't fathom that it could be done. They assume wrongly that the media would say something. Millions protested the war before the invasion and received virtually no coverage. That bubble has to be popped. The Iran-Contra scandal has since been admitted to. However, many of the people involved did not get in any real trouble.
That's right. They got no trouble. Ollie North is still out there giving interviews, but this and Operation Watchtower. Operation Watchtower was pretty simple. The special forces, including my friend William Tyree, doing life in prison, were sent down to Colombia to build radio guide towers to guide planes into Albrook Air Force Base in Panama, where they were met by Manuel Noriega's brother and Del Cid and CIA and Mossad agents Michael Harari. And I published that story in my first biker magazine in Miami almost 25 years ago. That's the first time I got threatened by the CIA. Yeah, we covered all of this in the Noriega trial. We hushed it up in the Noriega trial, but don't do anything like that again, Clay. Well, what I did was start the Free American, and that almost got me killed too.
We're simply given presidential pardons, either by Bush Sr. or Bill Clinton.
That was Casper Weinberger, Elliot Abrams, Robert McFarland, and Claire George, and not to mention the Jewish trader built people out of billions that got the presidential pardon and found refuge in Israel. The safe house for the International Banksters. It ain't Switzerland.
And the commission chosen to investigate the affair was actually chosen to cover it up.
That's right.
This pattern of crime and damage control continues. Take Brent Scowcroft, on the Tower Commission to investigate illegal arms sales, later chairman of the American Turkish Council, and involved in illegal arms trades himself. When patriots expose how blatantly obvious it is that there is a cover-up, regardless of how much evidence they have, the criminal's last refuge is to hide behind the stigma associated with conspiracy. They want you to ignore history in favor of belief based on authority. It is crucial for one to understand the national security state and its capacities before we talk about 9/11 and the lies about preemptive wars. Lead investigator into Iran-Contra gave most of the key suspects immunity. His name was Lee Hamilton. Lee Hamilton was later chosen to be part of the 9/11 Commission. The 9/11 Commission was a complete farce and a total whitewash. But we'll be digging into this bunch later. Let's just say Lee Hamilton had experience covering for the national security state. He didn't lose any sleep over helping the neocons, where Cold Warrior meets Zionist fanatic. On the House Select Committee to investigate the illegal arms trades with Iran was the ranking Republican, Dick Cheney. Later made Secretary of Defense after the Senate refused to confirm John Tower of the Tower Commission whitewash. Dick Cheney, of course, would serve as Vice President for George Bush's son, W., President during 9/11. These crooks continued to work in government regardless of what administration was in charge. And if you're still under the delusion that the left or right matter, you won't be by the end of this film. The CIA and Mossad conducted countless covert operations and false flags, too many to name. Heads of state have been assassinated, puppets have been installed.
President of Ecuador.
The security state's personal interests are thinly cloaked under the guise of fighting communism, or now terrorism. But rest assured, the invasion of Afghanistan had nothing to do with looking for Osama bin Laden or 9/11. And invading Iraq, even less. Invading Iraq under such a pretext, even if one swallowed the official version, would be as silly as invading Mexico after Pearl Harbor. Of course, one would think differently after watching the mass media in the run-up to the war. The press is a PR machine for the Pentagon. They acted as nothing but talking heads for Pentagon talking points.
Exactly
the
why I
state-run media, if it reports a scandal at all, reports a filtered version of it. In the state-run education, well, we're lucky if our kids can even speak their own native language. State deception and conspiracy isn't rare, it's normal. Blindly believing your TV is irresponsible and it's stupid. There is nothing kooky or funny about covert warfare and assassinations. It deserves open scrutiny and sincere investigation. To pretend that America's foreign policy is based on benevolence is outstandingly ignorant. To deny the actuality of covert actions and massive deception is equally as asinine.
And what I've told you, folks, over and over again, over the last 25 years, is that the covert operations, the CIA and the Mossad, work hand in hand. And by the way, that Senate Bill 1959, the House Bill 1955, that created the fusion centers. Hopefully they'll talk about that in this thing. We're talking about a shadow government, shadow economy. The people that are making the money, there's money being made, but it's being made off of your illnesses, the depleted uranium. You're coming back, you're bringing this weapon with you the same way they did in Vietnam with Agent Orange. They're killing us. They're providing our soldiers with weapons. Yeah, it'll destroy a tank, but it will kill you in the long run too. And this whole war on the people, written in stone, Georgia Guidestones, they want to reduce the world's population. So here, take this medicine, take this vaccine. You need this. You need this Luvox, this Cialis, can't get a hard on. Well, you better do this. Now this whole film is excellent. And it's reestablished what I've told you in the book, Mystery Babylon.
There are way too many counterexamples of successful conspiracies and hoax. For example, man-made global warming hype has been based on politics, not science. But look at how uniformly academia, the media, and the government work together on the myth. We're not just talking about hiding assassinations. The U.S. has been able to kill millions using covert warfare. See here John Stockwell talk about the CIA's secret wars on the Third World.
We launched the largest, this is something that Jimmy Carter did, Admiral Turner brags about it, the operation in Afghanistan.
biggest single operation, I'm told, in the history of the CIA's secret wars. And sure enough, very quickly we produced the Golden Crescent, which is still the largest source of heroin perhaps in the world today. Trying to summarize this Third World War that the CIA, the U.S. national security complex with the military all interwoven in it in many different ways, has been waging. Let me just put it this way. The best heads that I coordinate with studying this thing, we count at least minimum figure 6 million people who've been killed, and 6 million people who've been killed in this long 40-year war that we've waged against the people of the Third World.
Contra took the Kissinger model to new heights. Never had the military and intelligence agencies sought so many private sector sources of finance to such a degree. And in keeping with the distancing factor of the old British system of privateering, combined with the leverage of the global arms industry market, the U.S. had no shortage of willing partners to needlessly kill for profit. The fact that it was done showed a new step in the magnitude and capacity for multinational covert activities completely divorced from moral limits or even common interests other than profit.
You're talking about
Israel's
Blackwater.
ability to completely control coverage of its crimes is important. 9/11 was immediately falsely linked to Iraq by Israel. And as you will see, the pre-invasion hype, the anthrax attacks, spies, and even 9/11 itself all link back to Israel.
There you go. This is what I've been telling you, and this is one of the reasons they tried to kill me in 2004, because I put a picture of building number 7 on the cover of my Free American magazine in 2004. That was in March. In April, the George Bush unleashed the 2 Israeli phone tapping companies, Amdocs and one other, and they started tapping all the AT&T phones. I had one of the first ones, and that's how they knew exactly where I would be and what time I'd be there and what I would be riding on, and tried to take me out. That's all in Mystery Babylon 2, folks. $20, you can have it within 20 minutes, and you get Clay Douglas's history, you know. Yeah, you could probably even find something in there where Clay got busted for a pot. Well, the war on drugs, folks, is a war on the American people. The CIA and the Mossad are running it. Yeah, I've done every kind of drug you can ever imagine, but I quit doing cocaine when I found out the CIA was making all the money off of it, bringing it in through Panama and flying it into a little airport called Mina, where Mina was protected by the governor. And you might know who that is.
However, the U.S. was a willing partner. The U.S. wasn't fooled. It was fed a pretext, which it eagerly accepted.
And
The
APAC
plans
was behind
for war, Patriot Act, and massive profiteering had already been made and decided for years. The war in Iraq wasn't based on mistaken intelligence. It was based on lies, known deceptions. However, if a person relies only on television to tell them that Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction, and there never was any evidence for that claim, that the U.S. had no real interest in liberating the Kurds or allowing a legitimate democracy, that they planned perpetual war from the start, that permanent bases were always part of the agenda, and that intelligence agencies intentionally fostered religious infighting, even going as far as posing to be one faction while murdering another to set off cycles of revenge killings. Then they will always be in the dark, because this is not going to be on television. The media doesn't report it. The media is owned by the Pentagon. They have overlapping board of directorates. It is one large corporation. They lie. Iran-Contra was a conspiracy. John Poindexter was convicted of conspiracy. Here we have a massive geopolitical covert operation done by a faction within the American government concentrated in the office of the Vice President and the Department of Defense, working jointly with a faction in Israel to illegally sell arms and drugs in order to procure profits to pay off the Contras to fight the Sandinistas. And the entire time that the Americans and the Israelis are working together to do this, the Israelis were spying on the United States.